truly. And it's hard, like I was telling the family, it is hard to be mad when I was like, we are so much happier today. I spent the first 10 years building this company in a state of fight or flight. And resilience by definition was like you grind and a badge of honor to have burnout, and then to recognize that success by definition is different to me now. It is really getting present and having that clarity and stopping and investing in yourself and then creating those boundaries. And I actually have more productivity. I have more happiness and even more joy in it, because there's always going to be more challenges. Like this buyback is, arguably not the hardest thing I will ever face.
All right. Possibility Seekers, part 2, the cliffhanger denouement. Jodi Scott has told us in part 1 of this episode, and hopefully you've listened to it, what it looks, feels, and walks and talks like to be a very purpose and mission-driven entrepreneur, be bought out by what you think is a great entity, only to understand that the person you just sold it to has now been indicted for some things that are not positive. How should we say that politely? And now let's just back up 3 seconds to say we have no more employees. They love you to death. No one has understanding as to how to move forward. You've got customers that are asking you for the product because it's the only thing that works. Diabetic, you said there's a quadriplegic, there's all these sort of people with very specific eczema, all sorts of conditions that know that your product is the only thing that works and they can't get their hands on it. And you're trying to figure out what you want to do. Okay, Jodi, we're going to pick it up and go from there.
Yeah, it was a tough, tough moment because now the stock is dropped and we're trying to figure out how we can untangle and perhaps buy the company back, and in addition to keep things afloat at home. And we've got property taxes coming up, we've got volleyball bills coming up, and just the day to day, and we're pulling things out of everywhere, pulling it out of the house, we're pulling it out of our savings, we're pulling it out of our retirement, and not much, because mind you, as an entrepreneur, you don't have a 401k, you don't have some of these other things that you built upon, because you're counting on being able to leverage all of the blood, sweat, and tears when you build your company, and perhaps being able to take a little bit of equity out of it and be able to utilize that. So, and then of course, just from a mental health perspective, when something like that happens to you financially, and really your purpose, like I'll never forget someone being like, it's just business, it's not personal. And it's like, no, we're founders. This is personal. And making it personal is what makes the mission, what allows you to keep that mission alive, that perseverance. And so that sense of purpose leaves you, and you just feel like you've lost someone in your life. And then you're also going through the whole scarcity and like, did I just lose 15 years? I've never worked for someone since I was like in college. And can I even go work for someone? What does that look like? And the paralysis, the depression, the anxiety, like you're living in the past and you're living in the future, and you don't even know what to do in the present. And what I realized was that was exactly what I had to do, which was get present, to have clarity. And what I love about this part of the journey is that this is equitable exercises for anyone and everyone. You don't have to seek this by going and investing in, I don't know, whatever resources out there. You have the ability to do this. And that's where I was like, I have no money to invest in any of these things. My garbage is piled up at the front door. And my daughter's like, why is there garbage at the front door? I'm like, well, honey, we had to skip the garbage pickup this week. And that's the little things we have to do to keep this thing going. And So I, start going on very long walks. I had a coach that was so incredible. I had hired him, an executive coach prior to going into this. Little did I know the value that this would have. And I'm like, I can't pay you anymore. He showed up every Monday evening for more than a year with me and coached me through various exercises and practices. And again, that container where I could vent to him and he could lift me up and keep on going. And I would go on these walk and talks with him. He really distilled it down to small practices. So, this idea of meditating for 2 hours, like one, when you're in a state of anxiety and paralysis, like it's an impossible feat. But what was really cool to discover in the science is that you don't need to sit for 2 hours to achieve that same outcome. So it was very much 30 seconds to 2-minute practices throughout the day. So I literally had my alarm set on my phone every 3 hours. And I would start out with the 30 seconds, and then it would go to 2 minutes, and then it would go to 5 minutes, and eventually 12 minutes, 3 times a day doing it and building just like you would call it the workout, like going to the gym. And just like you would go to the gym to work out, you're building these like neuron receptors and neural pathways to help build and facilitate the ability to get present quicker. And so some of them are like look at the horizon and just really focus on all of the detail on the horizon. Don't think of anything else. As things are coming in, you just kind of like deflect it. You're like, okay, you just keep zoning in on that. Then I want you to hear the sound that's furthest away and just really focus on the sound that's the furthest away. Then come in and hear the sound that's closest. And then you start doing some deep breathing and then you focus on the breath and hear the breath and then you breathe and then so it's like all these little exercises that were very sensory focused. And those were the building blocks to allowing you to get really present. And the interesting part about it was the more I did this, the more clarity, the more grounded I became, the more clarity came in. And another one with him was you wake up, first thing you do is you put your feet on the ground and you go look at the horizon and you watch the sun come up. And you do that as well at the end of the day. Make sure you watch that sun go down. And then I started cold plunging, which was fascinating because I live next to a river. Again, like I needed to find all the things that were simple and easy, and it's horrible. I'm not gonna give it rainbows and butterflies, but what it did is that same exercise elevated because then you gotta go into a situation where you're really uncomfortable physically and you're not going to die, but you're feeling the pain and you're still mentally bringing yourself into this like breath, into this focus, and eventually it doesn't hurt anymore. And then what happens is when I have to go into a boardroom and I have to have a difficult discussion, I am able to be in charge of my like my reaction. So now I'm responding, I'm not reacting. And it allows you to access the information that is already you already have everything you need. It's just sometimes we get hijacked. And they use the saying like don't leave your hand on the hot stove for too long. This expectation that you're not going to react is impossible. We're humans. We have to have the human experience. But just don't leave your hand on the hot stove for too long. Feel it, let it move through you, and then you get into these practices and you're able to really focus and have clarity. And it allowed me to get uncomfortable in some tough situations because you learn a lot about yourself in terms of why we avoid certain conversations, different personalities. I mean, it was a difficult negotiation to be able to acquire the company back, and I needed to be grounded and focused. And then the best part is the halo effect that happens. My husband starts he starts integrating these practices. My daughter starts integrating these practices. Just the other day, her teacher pulled her aside and was like, I really love how you take exams. And she was like, what does that mean? She's 14. And he starts telling her like her ability to focus. And as she problem solves as she's going through it, and he watches her like take a couple deep breaths and then she like hits the challenging ones. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's integrating the practices.
You know what? They don't pay a lot of attention to what you say, but they pay a shitload of attention to what you do.
Right. And so it was a tough time, but there was also so many gifts, so many gifts. And And I know you and I talked about this, like my nephew. So he was adopted from Ethiopia and just this wonderful human. And he's my brother's oldest son. And right around when the pandemic started, my brother has 7 children, 5 adopted, 2 biological, and he's the oldest, adopted at 12. And the pandemic rolls around and he's like, my name's Aunt Noni. He's like, Aunt Noni, like I can't do the pandemic here. Like, can I please come and, spend a couple months with you? Well, a couple months turned into like almost 6 years, but that's besides the point. What having my daughter and my nephew watch us go through this and, like, how we would show up on the hard days and sometimes just cry. I mean, there were times I would just cry in his arms, like, "I don't wanna do this anymore, or I don't know what to do," and, you know, having to be economically strategic and bearing that and experiencing it, and so one day, I mean, I just had my head down on the desk and he came in and he was just like, "Noni, what's up?" And I'm like, "I don't know what to do." I was like, I'm having like a stuck moment. It's a stalemate. We can't get aligned on how to like get this transaction across." And and he's like, you know, do you know Mayweather?" And I'm like, looking outside. I'm like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." Like Mayweather, he's like, "The boxer." And I'm like, "The who?" And he's like, "All right, let me pull up some YouTube." And he's like, "All right, I want you to watch this guy." And he's like, "Watch how he moves. Watch how he's watching his opponent. See how he takes a couple hits, but he's not reacting to the hit. He is just like moving with it." And he's watching him and he's letting the guy get a little tired. And he's like seeing where he gets tired. And then he's like, then he goes in. And then that's when he goes in for the his moment. And he's like, "I want you to just watch him and steady him for a little bit." So that night, I'm like in bed, watch my husband's like, "What are you boxing? Like, what now?" And I'm like, "Watching Mayweather, man." And then I start listening to some of his like conversations he's having. Like someone came in to see him right before he was going into the ring or whatever. And they're like, We don't want to bother you." Like, and he's like, "No, I have already done the work. I already know what I need to do. I prepared myself for this. What I need to do is just stay very grounded and centered before I go in. And so as long as we can have this discussion and I can stay in that space, like we're good." So it's really interesting to mirror that with some of the intentional presence exercises that I was doing and kind of integrate that into my strategy. So I'm like, "Okay, guys, we're going into Mayweather their asses." My team was like, "What?" And then I had them all looking at the YouTube videos, and I said, "Okay, now we're gonna take this and we're gonna map out a strategy, and then we're gonna try this strategy, and with a little bit of coach's help, let's see if we can find a way to navigate this." And then we did.
So literally, you mapped out your this strategy with the help of I don't know what kind of coach you get for this kind of thing because I have no idea. But, like, eh you learned so much about resiliency, your family's, yours, the whole I feel like you probably came out the other end a much stronger human, but man.
Truly. And it's hard, like I was telling the family, it is hard to be mad when I was like, "We are so much happier today." I've spent the first 10 years building this company in a state of fight or flight. And resilience by definition was like you grind and a badge of honor to have burnout. And then to recognize that success by definition is different to me now. It is really getting present and having that clarity and stopping and investing in yourself and then creating those boundaries. And I actually have more productivity. I have more happiness and even more joy in it because there's always going to be more challenges. Like this buyback is, arguably not the hardest thing I will ever face. And now we've been able to cultivate these skills that again, and even in our own family has been able to develop. And so I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful, and it was really fun the other day when, like, things are starting to pick up again, and we're feeling that, like, entrepreneurial energy, and, my husband, like, it'd been a 14-hour day, and he's like, "Okay, we're gonna keep," and I was like, "Nope, we're going for a walk, and we're not gonna listen to anything, and we may talk and we may not talk. We're gonna go get present, and we're gonna go drop in the river real quick," and he was like, And I was like, we are not going to abandon what we have cultivated. And I was like, let's do this. And let's see if now we can practice what we've learned in this other container. And then we did. And we were so grateful that we did. We came back and we were like, oh, I got a couple more hours in me, and you find that you're just more productive and how you spend your time and how you move forward in the various tasks that are required to build your company and move forward.
What was the time frame of the whole the for the nightmare, getting rid of everybody on your staff, your team, including family, which must have been the most gut-wrenching thing, to the time that you've got control again and you're back into production? What was that time frame?
It was 18 months, and it was intense and depleting all of the resources, and then it's like meeting with investors, meeting with bankers, because it's like we needed I mean, our there was no cash transaction in this deal when we sold it, so we didn't have anything there to leverage, and of course, the stock dropped to nothing, and so we couldn't leverage that asset either, and so we had to get really creative with and it spent a lot of time finding the various resources and process to be able to get it done. It's almost miraculous when you think about it. I'm like, "How did we piecemeal this whole thing together and get it done?"
It is miraculous, and I was gonna say that, you told me that you refer to yourself, I love this, recovering perfectionist, which I is so good. And can you walk us through the turning point that made you realize that self-care wasn't optional for you, and now you're eating your own dog food, as I like to say, and you're incorporating what you learned the hard way into your new existence, and it seems to be paying dividends. What was the turning point for that, and how do you keep that fresh for yourself?
Well, and I think too, you again thinking about being a perfectionist and a futurist to me were very synonymous because you're in the past and you're in the future. You're not in the moment. And it's like you're constantly like, did I do enough? Am I enough? And who was I? And then losing everything, it's like, who am I? Like, all of that is in the past. And then it's, well, who am I becoming? And your business too. Like, what's the next milestone? I'll be happy when I hit the next milestone. What is who? And so you're always in the future. What's the next thing? And so redefining that success and being that much more present. And it impacts how I have my meetings with my team, how I'm decision making. Like, what does it feel in your body? Because if you allow yourself to be present, like we talked a little earlier about intuition, you can take some of that discernment and how it feels along with the information that you have in order to be able to make those next decisions. And it is very easy. Don't get me wrong. It's very easy in this moment to want to fall back to some of those earlier habits. And then you're reminded also of the joy you're getting out of it today is so much greater and you feel so much better and the output is better. So like you're also reinforced by the output. So these sacred activities of watching the sunset, watching the sunrise, having your presence exercises, going on walks and not feeling like, "Oh, I didn't read those 5 books I was supposed to read and those 10 podcasts," I'm like, "Maybe I'm just gonna take one of those today, and then I'm just gonna be quiet with myself." And and thinking about sort of the holistic perspective. We have an acronym in the house that we call SHAMAN, and it's kind of like our little North Star and reminding ourselves that we are living things. We are living beings. So we need light, we need water, we need food in order to thrive. And so shaman is, sleep, adding to the sleep bank. H is hydration, making sure that the thing that's serving us is hydrating, including our skincare. Um, A is antioxidants and thinking about whether it's light, it's food, it's the ingredients. M is mindfulness and really integrating those mindful moments. A is avoid and avoid not just like ingredients that aren't good for you, but avoid the things that don't serve you. Those boundaries, like maybe you shouldn't spend time with that individual, and that's okay. Like have that time. and is nutrition. And so just thinking about the food that and nutrition doesn't necessarily just have to be food. Like it can be a moment. Like is it nurturing you and giving you the nutrition that you need, your soul, your mind, your body? And what I love about even green goo and that like sort of shaman perspective is that on Sundays I call it the butter up. And I'll pick whichever salve I want. If I need the anti-inflammatory, if I just want the deeply hydrating, and I will butter up from, shoulders down, put my bathrobe on, and just like let my skin drink it up. And it's drinking up the hydration. It's taking in the nutrients. It's taking in the antioxidants. I'm slowing down for a minute. I'm having a mindful moment. I'm like reading or I'm having my tea or sitting on the back porch and just feeling the sun because I need to take that moment to let my skin absorb this. And then you get ready for the day and your whole day is different. And I had a friend the other day and she was like, "Wow, like I wouldn't play pickleball. I buttered up with the pain relief salve and then I slept amazing and I just feel better." And so it's just that holistic giving yourself that it's the permission, it's essential. It's not a luxury. I used to think investing in myself was a luxury. And it's essential in order to tap into your greatest human potential to be able to succeed at whatever thing you want to succeed at. And then you can see it in like athletes and people who have achieved very high level corporate successes is doing is only going to get you so far and being is going to get you a lot further in a way that will give you so much more joy.
So true. God, that is so well said. I don't think there's anything I need to add or ask at all. I mean, what do you wanna leave people with? Anything that you wanna good career advice, good life advice, just like, words of wisdom from Jodi Scott, like, just don't do this or just remember to do that. Anything you wanna leave people with, or come to my website, go get yourself some salve for God's sakes.
I mean, you should do that too. Definitely go to greengoo.com, get your goodies, no doubt. Um, but I think what I would love, we you did such a beautiful job of creating this wonderful container for us to exchange this information. And I think just to like put a bow on it would be that you have everything that you need with you already. It's all there. Just got to tap into it.
Words of wisdom, Jodi Scott. Thank you so much. This has been such an incredible episode. These 2 episodes have been amazing. Personally, professionally, there's so many takeaways and life lessons that if you're listening, women with possibilities and women in leadership, you will and I know there's a lot of men listening, so I won't diss my boys, but please take it to heart. And of course, I'm going to put in the show notes all the wonderful brands and products that you can avail yourself of that Jodi Scott is responsible for and about. Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough. And thank you for being here. Make it a great day. Bye bye. Hey there. I just wanted to add that Jodi is kind enough to give us a promo code. Promo is Monique16. Monique16 will give you 16% off your first order at greengoo.com and her other websites. So please look at the show notes or go to the blog and start at greengoo.com and shop away. The salves are amazing. The vitamin C serum is to die for, and there's a bunch of other products you should check out. Remember, first aid does not have to be disgusting and toxic. It can also be from plants and good for you. This stuff feels great on your skin. All right, have fun. Again, I don't get anything from it. I just want you to know that there are good plant-based products out there that are good for you, make you look great, and also support a female entrepreneur. Thanks. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to Possibilities with Monique DeMeo, where we unpack life as a female mover and shaker. If you like the show, please consider liking it, or better still, subscribing to it and leaving us a rating. It truly does help. Also, you can pick up my book, The 7 Secrets to Creating a Life You Love, a practical guide for women in leadership. You can find the book, other episodes of this podcast, and how to stay in touch at moniquedemeo.com. DEMAIO. I look forward to seeing you again soon. With gratitude, Monique.